Did you know the doctors who performed some of history's most horrific human experiments never faced justice? Unit 7. 3-1 was Japan's secret biological warfare program during World War II. They infected prisoners with diseases, froze limbs to study frostbite, and performed surgery without anesthesia. They called their victims logs, not people. When Japan surrendered, these doctors should have faced war crimes trials. Instead, the United States made a deal. General Douglas MacArthur's headquarters offered complete immunity in exchange for their research data. Dr. Shiro Ishii, who led the program, lived freely in Japan until 1959. Dr. Kurt Blome, who worked with biological weapons, was hired by the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. Many others found comfortable positions in Japanese universities and hospitals. The victims were forgotten. The perpetrators were protected. America wanted their research more than justice. These men who tortured thousands in the name of science spent their final years as respected professors and government advisors. They died peacefully in their beds, their crimes buried in classified files. Evil doesn't always get punished. Sometimes it gets promoted. Did you know an entire town was slowly poisoned by their own government? In 1962, a trash fire in Centralia, Pennsylvania spread to an underground coal seam. The fire never stopped. It's still burning today, 60 years later. Within months, toxic gases started seeping through basement floors. Carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, deadly fumes that killed pets and made children sick. The ground became so hot it melted snow in winter. Sinkholes opened up, swallowing yards and nearly swallowing people. But here's the horror. The government knew how to stop it. They could have flooded the mines or excavated the burning coal. Instead, they did a cost-benefit analysis. 600 families weren't worth the $55 million it would take to save them, so they offered buyouts. Pennies on the dollar for homes that were now worthless. Most families had no choice but to take the money and leave everything behind. Others stayed, breathing poison every day because they had nowhere else to go. Today, Centralia is a ghost town. The fire still burns beneath empty streets. The government's solution wasn't to fix the problem. It was to wait for everyone to die. Did you know a commercial airline pilot may have deliberately crashed his plane with 239 people on board? March 8, 2014. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was supposed to be a routine 6-hour flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah had 18,000 flight hours. Passengers trusted him with their lives. But 23 minutes after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. The plane's transponder was manually turned off. Then, the communication system. Both required deliberate action from someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The aircraft made a sharp left turn, flying for 7 more hours into the dark emptiness of the southern Indian Ocean. Investigators found something chilling on Zahari's home flight simulator. He had practiced this exact route weeks before. The same flight path, the same remote ocean location where no one would ever find them. 239 innocent people, families heading home, children on vacation, all passengers on a flight where their trusted captain had already decided their fate before they even boarded. The plane has never been found. Did you know that factory workers were once told to lick radioactive paintbrushes with their tongues? In the 1920s, young women worked in radium dial factories, painting watch faces with glowing paint. The paint contained radium, a deadly radioactive element, but the company told them it was completely safe. They called the workers the Radium Girls. Supervisors encouraged them to lick their brushes to create fine points for painting tiny numbers. Some even painted their nails and teeth with the glowing substance for fun. Then, the women started getting sick. Their jaws rotted away. Their bones crumbled. Their hair fell out. One by one, they began dying horrible deaths. But when families demanded answers, the company launched a cover-up. They hired fake doctors to lie about the cause of death. They spread rumors that the women were dying from syphilis, destroying their reputations. Company executives knew the truth the entire time. Internal documents later revealed they understood radium was lethal, but they chose profit over human lives. The Radium Girls fought back in court, creating some of the first worker safety laws. But many died before seeing justice. Their glowing graves are still radioactive today. Did you know a serial killer once installed home security systems while secretly planning his next murder? For 31 years, Dennis Rader was the perfect neighbor. He worked as a compliance officer, enforcing city codes during the day. On Sundays, he led his Lutheran church congregation in worship. At dinner, he helped his kids with homework while his wife served pot roast. But between these moments, Rader was BTK. Bind, torture, kill. He would drive through neighborhoods, studying families through their windows, taking notes on their routines, their weaknesses. He murdered 10 people, including entire families, the Oteros. 4 family members strangled in their home in 1974. Nancy Fox, found with a plastic bag over her head. Rader would send letters to police, taunting them with details only the killer would know. Then he'd go home and tuck his children into bed. The most terrifying part wasn't his crimes. It was how easily he switched between father and monster. How perfectly evil can wear the mask of ordinary. Your neighbor could be anyone, and you'd never know. Did you know an entire village was wiped out by something completely invisible? August 21st, 1986. Lake Nyos in Cameroon looked peaceful that evening. Families went to bed like any other night. But deep beneath the water, something deadly was building. At 9:30 that night, the lake burped. A massive bubble of carbon dioxide erupted from the depths, releasing a silent cloud of death that rolled across the land like fog. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air. It hugged the ground, flowing into valleys, seeping into homes. People didn't even know they were dying. No screams, no struggle, no warning. Joseph Nquain was one of the few survivors. He woke up to complete silence. His family was dead in their beds. His neighbors, dead in their yards. Even the insects had stopped buzzing. 1,700 people suffocated in their sleep. The lake itself turned from crystal blue to rust red, stained with iron from the depths. Bodies lay everywhere, perfectly preserved. No violence, no destruction. Just an invisible killer that left behind the most haunting crime scene nature ever created. Did you know there's a place in Chile where a peaceful farming village was secretly a torture site for a dictatorship? It was called Colonia Dignidad. From the outside, it looked like a quiet German farming community, nestled in the Andes. Friendly settlers, fresh bread, children singing hymns. But behind the fences, something else was happening. Paul Schaefer was a German preacher who fled Europe in the 1960s after being accused of abusing children. He brought dozens of followers to rural Chile and built a colony no one could leave. When Pinochet took power in 1973, Schaefer offered his land to the secret police. Political prisoners were brought through the gates at night. Many were never seen again. The colony had its own clinic, its own school, its own rules. Children born there knew nothing else. Abuse was routine. Escape was nearly impossible. The outside world saw a farming commune. Locals even bought their bread. Schaefer wasn't arrested until 2005. The colony existed for over 40 years, hidden in plain sight.
In February 1948, a distress signal crackled across the open ocean. The message was simple: everyone is dead. Rescue ships raced toward the coordinates and found the Urang Medan drifting in calm, still water. No storm, no damage, no sign of attack. But when they boarded, they stopped cold. The crew was scattered across the deck exactly where they had fallen. Faces locked open in pure terror, eyes wide, mouths stretched, arms reaching at nothing. The captain was slumped over his charts. The radio operator still had his hand on the transmitter. No wounds, no blood, no explanation. Then the investigators tried to tow the ship back to port. Fire broke out in the cargo hold. Within minutes, the Urang Medan exploded and sank before anyone could ask another question. Some researchers later found records suggesting the ship was carrying unlabeled chemical containers. But that doesn't explain the faces, because whatever those men saw in their final seconds, they all saw the exact same thing, and nobody knows what it was. Did you know the men sent to clean up Chernobyl were told they had nothing to worry about? 2 weeks, minimal exposure, come home safe. That was the promise. Vasily Ignatenko was a firefighter, 25 years old. He ran toward the reactor in the first hours after the explosion because nobody told him what was actually burning. He was dead in 14 days. The Soviet government had the dosimeter readings. They knew the real numbers. They confiscated personal radiation meters and replaced them with ones that couldn't measure high enough to show the truth. 600,000 men cycled through that zone over the following years. Miners who dug tunnels beneath the melting core. Helicopter pilots who dropped sandbags into open radiation. Soldiers who shoveled graphite with their bare hands. Each one was called a hero. Each one was given a medal. And when they came home sick, When their hair fell out and their organs failed, the official death certificate said heart failure, liver disease, anything but Chernobyl. The government didn't just let them die. It made sure nobody would ever be able to prove it. Did you know a family was murdered in their home by someone who had already been living there for weeks? March 1922, a small farm in Bavaria called Hinterkaifeck. 6 people killed. But the killing isn't the part that haunts me. It's the weeks before. The father found footprints in the snow leading from the forest to the house. No footprints leading back out, he told the neighbors. Then he went home anyway. A few nights later, the family heard something moving in the attic. Slow footsteps above their heads. They searched the house and found nothing. So they stayed. The maid quit that week. She said the house felt wrong. They hired a new one. Then on a Friday evening in late March, someone led each family member into the barn one by one. And that was the end. But investigators found something strange when they arrived. The livestock had been fed after the murders. Someone cooked meals in the kitchen. Someone slept in the beds. For several days, whoever did this just kept living there. The case was never solved. Nobody ever explained the footprints that only went one way.